We are following the latest on President Trump demanding the Justice Department investigate the FBI's Russia probe tactics. He wants to know if the department or the FBI infiltrated or surveilled his campaign and if the Obama administration fueled the investigation. The president is demanding to know whether the FBI had a secret informant spy on him and his campaign. Julia Manchester is following the latest in Washington. She's a reporter for The Hill and joins me now. So, Julia, is President Trump's request a bit of an overreach in an effort to undermine perhaps the investigation, or is it a completely valid request?
Right. So, Anne-Marie, there is nothing technically illegal about President Trump's demand, just like there was nothing technically illegal about him firing James Comey. However, critics will say that it could mean it's an overreach of the president trying to have more sway over his Justice Department than might be deemed appropriate.
So at other times when we've heard the president say some things or make accusations that some might consider outlandish, there's sort of a nugget. There's something to indicate where he got this from. Can you explain where the president's concerns about a spy in his campaign, where that could possibly be coming from?
Right. So late last week, there was a New York Times report saying that there was an FBI informant who basically went into the campaign not into the campaign directly, but to talk to people related to campaign about potential potential Russian contacts, such as George Papadopoulos and even Carter Page. So he saw that report, and it seems that's what triggered it. But the difference between that report and what the president is saying is the president saying Obama's FBI did this to be politically motivated. However, that report was more saying it was national security related, that there was concern that the Kremlin was trying to meddle.
All right. So in the meantime, Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, is continuing to talk. He's talking about the Mueller probe. He says, look, this entire probe could be wrapped up by September if the president agrees to sit down with investigators and do an interview. So does this mean that President Trump may be sitting down with Mueller? Can we maybe, is this an indication that Giuliani's floating the idea?
Well, yeah, so it's very possible. However, I think what we need to realize is Giuliani has floated this idea. However, he has also said there are strict parameters to what can be said in the interview. So it would be 2 questions. It would be a certain amount of time, a certain number of topics covered. So, and I think judging from the way Mueller has conducted this probe, he's very thorough. And I think he'd want to ask the president more than 2 questions. So I think for an interview to happen, there would definitely have to be a bit more negotiation.
Right. So I just want to switch gears a little bit, Julia, and talk about an article that you wrote about a Harvard law professor's take on impeaching the president. And basically his argument was, if you think things are politically dysfunctional now, if you think there's polarization now, just try and impeach President Trump.
Right. So there already is, as we know, a ton of polarization, and we've seen President Trump's base is very disconnected with the Democratic base. Lots of space between those two. And I think what that professor was saying there is if Democrats decide to run on this issue of impeachment, they're going to alienate a lot of voters who don't necessarily care about the Mueller probe or Russia's interference, because I think a lot of voters would rather be focused on issues such as the economy or national security, not necessarily this ongoing probe. So I think what he's saying is Democrats need to stick to more domestic issues in an effort to maybe appeal to more swing voters as well as their base and even Trump's base.
Julia Manchester, thank you.
Thank you.